Before we begin our journey tonight, a brief note. This episode of Sleepy Psychology is brought to you by the SAC Center, a leading telehealth clinic specializing in the testing and treatment of autism and ADHD. The SAC Center proudly serves all 50 states, bringing expert care directly to you wherever you are. To learn more about their comprehensive services and how they can help, please visit saccenter.com. Welcome, weary traveler, to a space where the edges of your day can soften and the gentle current of understanding can carry you towards rest. Tonight, we turn our attention to the figure who stands as the undisputed father of psychoanalysis, a man whose ideas revolutionized our understanding of the human mind, Sigmund Freud. His life was a testament to intellectual courage, marked by both profound insight and relentless opposition, and his theories, even decades later, continue to shape how we think about our inner lives. As the evening softly envelopes you, allow his story to unfold, not as a rigid lecture, but as a calming narrative, a gentle stream flowing towards the quiet stillness of sleep. Sigmund Freud was born in 1856, in the small town of Freiburg, Moravia, which is now part of the Czech Republic. However, his family moved to Vienna, Austria when he was just 4 years old, and it was in this vibrant, intellectually rich, yet often conservative city that he would spend the vast majority of his life and develop his groundbreaking ideas. Freud was the eldest of 8 children, and by all accounts his mother adored him, a fact that some biographers link to his later theories about early childhood development and the Oedipus complex. His childhood was not one of hardship in terms of material comfort, but he faced the subtle yet pervasive anti-Semitism that was unfortunately common in Vienna at the time. This discrimination likely instilled in him a resilient, somewhat defiant spirit, and a strong sense of his own intellectual capabilities. From a young age, Freud was remarkably intelligent and fiercely ambitious. He excelled in school, demonstrating a keen interest in philosophy, literature, and the natural sciences. He ultimately chose to pursue medicine, driven by a desire to understand human nature and alleviate suffering. After graduating from the University of Vienna, he began his career as a neurologist. It was during this period, treating patients suffering from various nervous disorders that seemed to defy conventional medical explanation, that Freud began to question the prevailing medical paradigms. Many of his patients, particularly women, presented with what was then diagnosed as hysteria, exhibiting symptoms like paralysis, blindness, or seizures without any apparent physical cause. These cases deeply perplexed him and nudged him towards exploring the psychological rather than purely physiological roots of illness. A pivotal moment in Freud's early career came through his collaboration with Dr. Joseph Breuer, a respected physician who was treating a young woman known as Anna O. Anna O. suffered from a wide range of hysterical symptoms, but Breuer found that her symptoms temporarily eased when she talked about her distressing experiences while in a hypnotic state. This talking cure, as Anna O herself called it, was a revelation. It suggested that psychological symptoms could be rooted in repressed traumatic memories or emotional conflicts. This collaborative work laid the initial groundwork for psychoanalysis, emphasizing the therapeutic power of bringing unconscious material into conscious awareness. As Freud delved deeper, he began to diverge from Breuer, particularly in his increasing emphasis on the role of sexuality in the development of neuroses. This focus on sexuality was revolutionary and, at the time, highly controversial. Victorian society was outwardly prim and repressed, and Freud's assertion that unconscious sexual desires and conflicts played a central role in mental illness was met with outrage and ridicule. He faced significant intellectual isolation and professional ostracism. Many of his medical colleagues dismissed his theories as unscientific and even scandalous. This period of intellectual struggle and societal disapproval shaped Freud's character, forging in him a determination to defend his theories against a skeptical world. It was against this backdrop that the remarkable, albeit ultimately fractious, friendship between Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung began. Their first meeting, as we briefly touched upon in 1907 in Vienna, was an intellectual spark. They talked for an astonishing 13 hours straight, a testament to their immediate intellectual kinship and shared passion for the mysteries of the human mind. Freud, then in his early 50s and already a recognized, if controversial, figure, saw in the younger Jung, a brilliant psychiatrist from Switzerland, a potential successor, someone who could carry the torch of psychoanalysis into the future. He considered Jung his crown prince, and for a time, Jung was the president of the International Psychoanalytical Association, seemingly destined to inherit Freud's intellectual empire. For several years their collaboration was incredibly fruitful. They exchanged hundreds of letters, met frequently, and influenced each other's thinking. Jung's work with word association tests seemed to provide empirical validation for Freud's concepts of repression and complexes. However, as we know, their intellectual paths, though initially parallel, began to diverge. Freud maintained a steadfast belief in the primacy of infantile sexuality and the Oedipus complex as the central drivers of the unconscious. He saw dreams primarily as wish fulfillments, often sexual in nature, and neurotic symptoms as arising from repressed sexual urges. Jung, on the other hand, began to feel that Freud's focus was too narrow. He grew increasingly interested in the spiritual, mythological, and collective dimensions of the unconscious, proposing concepts like the collective unconscious and archetypes. He felt that not all neurotic symptoms could be explained solely by sexual repression and that there were deeper, transpersonal forces at play. For Freud, these divergences were a threat to the scientific credibility of psychoanalysis, which he was so painstakingly trying to establish. He viewed Jung's move towards mysticism as a departure from scientific rigor. The disagreements became irreconcilable, culminating in a bitter and painful break around 1912 to 1913. For Freud, this was not merely an intellectual disagreement but a profound personal betrayal, a loss of a valued colleague and a hoped-for intellectual heir. He felt that Jung had abandoned the core tenets of psychoanalysis and, in doing so, had undermined the very movement he had helped to build. This rupture left a deep wound in Freud, contributing to his sense of being a solitary pioneer in a hostile intellectual landscape. Despite these personal and professional hardships, Freud continued to develop and refine his groundbreaking theories. At the core of Freud's work is the concept of the unconscious mind. Before Freud, the prevailing view was that the mind was primarily conscious. Freud, however, argued that a vast, hidden part of our mind, the unconscious, contains desires, memories, and impulses that are outside of our conscious awareness but profoundly influence our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. He believed that many of our psychological problems stem from unresolved conflicts and repressed material in this unconscious realm. Think of it like an iceberg, where only a small tip is visible above the water, and the vast majority lies hidden beneath the surface. To explain the workings of the mind, Freud proposed a structural model consisting of three interacting components: the ID, ego, and superego. The ID is the most primitive part of the personality, operating entirely in the unconscious. It is driven by the pleasure principle, seeking immediate gratification of all desires and urges, without regard for reality or morality. It's the impulsive, instinctual part of us. The ego develops from the ID and operates primarily in the conscious and preconscious mind. It is guided by the reality principle, mediating between the impulsive demands of the ID, the moralistic dictates of the superego, and the constraints of the external world. The ego is the rational, problem-solving part of the personality. The superego emerges later in childhood, representing our internalized moral standards and ideals, primarily absorbed from parents and society. It strives for perfection, judging our actions and producing feelings of guilt or pride. It's our inner moral compass. According to Freud, much of our psychological life is a dynamic interplay, and often a conflict, between these three forces. Neuroses, he argued, arise when the ego struggles to balance the conflicting demands of the ID and superego. Freud also introduced the concept of psychosexual stages of development. He proposed that personality development occurs in a series of stages, each characterized by a focus on a different erogenous zone and associated with specific conflicts. These stages are oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital. Freud believed that if a child experiences too much or too little gratification during any of these stages, they can become fixated, leading to specific personality traits or psychological problems in adulthood. For example, an oral fixation might manifest as excessive eating, smoking, or talkativeness. Another key aspect of Freud's theory is defense mechanisms. These are unconscious strategies employed by the ego to protect itself from anxiety arising from unacceptable thoughts or feelings. Examples include repression, denial, projection, and sublimation. While Freud saw them as largely pathological, later psychologists recognized their adaptive function in managing stress. How has Freud's work impacted us today, and how does it personally resonate? It's almost impossible to overstate his influence, even if many of his specific theories have been modified or challenged over time. Firstly, Freud absolutely revolutionized the idea of the unconscious mind. Before him, the idea that a vast, hidden reservoir of thoughts and desires influenced our behavior was largely unacknowledged in science. His work opened up an entirely new realm of psychological inquiry and therapy. Today, even in mainstream psychology, the concept of implicit biases, unconscious motivations, and automatic thought processes are widely accepted, directly tracing their lineage back to Freud's initial explorations. For me, as an individual, this concept is incredibly powerful. When I find myself reacting to a situation in a way that feels uncharacteristic or confusing, Freud's ideas encourage me to look beyond the surface, to consider what deeper, perhaps unconscious, motivations might be at play. It's a reminder that we are often driven by forces we don't fully understand, and that self-awareness is a lifelong journey of uncovering these hidden influences. Secondly, Freud pioneered talk therapy. The very act of lying on a couch and talking about your thoughts, feelings, and dreams, while a therapist listens, is a direct descendant of Freud's psychoanalytic method. While modern therapy has evolved significantly, the fundamental premise that talking through one's problems can lead to insight and healing remains a cornerstone of many therapeutic approaches. It taught us that language itself can be a tool for psychological change. Personally, this has shown me the profound value of simply articulating my thoughts and feelings, even if just to myself in a journal. The act of externalizing internal struggles can bring clarity and a sense of relief. Thirdly, Freud brought childhood development into sharp focus as a critical period for personality formation. His emphasis on early experiences, particularly the relationship with primary caregivers, laid the groundwork for countless developmental theories that followed. While his specific psychosexual stages are debated, the overarching idea that our early years profoundly shape who we become is now widely accepted. This has shaped how we approach parenting, education, and early intervention for psychological difficulties. For me, this encourages a compassionate look at my own past, understanding that early experiences, both positive and challenging, have contributed to the person I am today. It also highlights the responsibility we have in nurturing the emotional lives of children. Fourthly, the concept of defense mechanisms is incredibly pervasive in everyday language and understanding. We intuitively grasp what it means to deny something, to project our feelings onto another, or to rationalize our behavior. These Freudian concepts have seeped into common parlance because they describe universal human tendencies. Understanding them can help us become more self-aware about our own coping strategies and more empathetic towards others. If I see someone reacting defensively, Freud's concepts help me consider that they might be protecting themselves from anxiety, rather than simply being difficult. This fosters a greater capacity for patience and understanding. So, as we draw this gentle exploration to a close, what can we learn from the teachings of Sigmund Freud, even as we acknowledge the complexities and critiques of his work? Firstly, embrace the idea that there is more to you than meets the eye. Your conscious thoughts and intentions are only part of the picture. Be curious about your dreams, your slips of the tongue, your seemingly irrational impulses. They might be messages from your unconscious, offering clues to deeper truths about yourself. Take time for self-reflection, for quiet contemplation, for simply noticing what arises within your mind. Secondly, recognize the enduring impact of your past, especially your early experiences. While you are not merely a product of your childhood, acknowledging how formative years have shaped your personality, your patterns of relating, and your emotional responses can be a powerful step towards greater self-understanding and, if needed, healing. Consider how your inner child might still be influencing your adult life. Thirdly, be aware of your own defense mechanisms. When you find yourself rationalizing, denying, or projecting, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, what uncomfortable truth am I avoiding? What emotion am I trying to protect myself from? Recognizing these patterns is the first step towards choosing healthier, more conscious ways of coping with anxiety and conflict. Fourthly, understand the constant interplay of forces within you. The ID, ego, and superego, while theoretical constructs, provide a useful metaphor for the different voices and urges we experience. The impulsive desire, the rational planner, and the inner critic are all at play. Developing a strong, healthy ego involves finding a balance between these forces, allowing for both self-expression and responsible action. Finally, appreciate the power of talking and storytelling for healing. The Talking Cure remains a profound testament to the human need to articulate our experiences, to put words to our pain, our joys, and our conflicts. Whether it's through therapy, honest conversations with trusted friends, or even journaling, finding a way to express your inner world can be incredibly therapeutic. Now, as these thoughts gently settle within you, allow yourself to sink even deeper into the stillness of the present moment. Feel the comforting weight of your body, supported and held. The air around you is calm, peaceful. Bring your awareness to your feet. Feel them release any lingering tension. Your ankles are soft, your calves relaxed. Allow this feeling of gentle release to travel up into your knees, your thighs, and your hips. Feel your hips heavy and grounded. Your belly rises and falls softly with each breath, a gentle wave. Your chest expands and contracts with ease. Feel the relaxation spreading through your lower back, then up your spine vertebra by vertebra, releasing any stiffness. Your shoulders are soft and wide, drawing away from your ears. Your arms are heavy and relaxed, from your upper arms to your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, and your hands. Your fingers are gently curled, completely at rest. Feel the muscles of your neck soften, allowing your head to rest gently. Your jaw is loose, your tongue at ease in your mouth. Your eyelids are gently closed, your eyes resting deeply in their sockets. Your forehead is smooth and unlined. Imagine now that you are lying on a soft cloud, suspended gently in the vast, quiet expanse of the night sky. Around you there is only peace, only stillness. Each breath you take deepens the sensation of calm, drawing you further into a state of profound rest. The insights of Freud, of understanding the hidden currents beneath the surface of the mind, whisper softly through the air around you, a gentle lullaby. You are complex, yet understandable. You are influenced by your past, yet capable of growth and change. Drift now into the quiet embrace of sleep. May your dreams be filled with insight, and your rest be deep and restorative. Good night. This episode of Sleepy Psychology was brought to you by the SAC Center, a leading telehealth clinic dedicated to the testing and treatment of autism and ADHD. The SAC Center is committed to providing expert, compassionate care across all 50 states, bringing specialized support directly to you, wherever you are. To explore their comprehensive services and learn how they can help, please visit saccenter.com. May your dreams be serene and your rest be deep. Good night.